Before I start today, I want to give a big thank you to Lunara Urizen on Deviantart. The link is in the description. They are responsible for these great pixel art recreations of some Halo ships. They also do some Star Wars stuff, some Mass Effect stuff, and a bunch of other things. I think they also do commissions, so if you have the time or if you're interested, go ahead and go pop on over there through the link in the description. And they were kind enough to give me permission to use their stuff, so go talk to them. Go talk to them and, I don't know, request some more Halo stuff so that I can use it. Tell them I sent you. Again, big thank you, Lunara, and the video, start. Of all the ships fielded by the species of the Covenant, few are as overlooked as the humble Hangar pattern Blockade runner. Categorized as a vestige ship and first developed long ago, before the first age of conflict and throughout the War of Beginnings, these Sangheili Corvettes were favored by daring and cunning elite shipmasters who were willing to sacrifice protection for speed and a potent armament. Hey people, Mark here, and welcome to Gamma Company Mark. Today we're going over an interesting post-war ship, the Hangar pattern Blockade runner. This was a fun one to write, and I hope you enjoy it. There aren't many videos on post-war ships, or even Covenant ships in general out there, so I thought I'd contribute. Sources used are Warfleet, Mythos, Halo Fleet Battles, the Encyclopedia, and some archived cannon fodders. If by the end of the video you decide you like it, a like would be appreciated, and if you dislike it, then I'd be confused as to why you're still watching. Please subscribe. Thank you. Not every Sangheili clan surrendered their ships to the Sanshayum following the signing of the Writ of Union in 852 BCE. For reference, that's around the time that Homer would be writing the Odyssey. Many elites hoped to stage an eventual rebellion, though many likely imagined it wouldn't take so many millennia. In their efforts to prepare, hundreds of ancient ships were hidden underground on barren worlds, or sent adrift to uninhabited stars, awaiting the day they'd be dug up to serve their creators once more. One fleet of these ancient Sangheili was led by Supreme Commander Ophan Karam, an apostate of legend who defied the Covenant at its conception, and vanished from the pages of history soon after. The Sangheili Blockade runner was his signature warship, and as his descendants once again fight amongst each other to decide the future of Sanghelios, be it for an equitable future under the shepherding of Thel 'Vadam, or to continue the Sangheili tradition of war in a fight for vengeance against the humans, led by Jul 'Mdama. Much like their zealous creators, these ships are specialized in barreling through the enemy's formations with speed and grace, complemented by lethal precision. Precision. It's hard to say that precisely. These ships were like wolves on the hunt, known for pursuing damaged vessels as they limp away like injured prey. Perhaps it would be more apt to describe them as shark-like, for the design inspiration for the ship is biomimetic. Archon Ta, a carnivorous fish roughly the size of a Sangheili's fist, or an average human head, are feared and respected by the elites not for their size or strength, but for their unshrinking nature and swift hunting style. A brave creature all hatchlings can learn from. It was obvious that a ship built in the likeness of the respectable animal should likewise employ fast attack tactics, with an emphasis on damage and speed. Any damage taken was the fault of the shipmaster. Any losses accrued, necessary for ultimate victory. And if the ship was destroyed in battle, the crew died honorably, not cowering behind the safety of thick armor. Ancient as they were, these ships could not have kept up with modern Covenant innovation without significant improvements by the Hiragox. Of these phased-out utilities, the Misa stealth generators most starkly contrast with their modern counterparts. Unlike the sensor distortion grids employed by modern active camouflage technology on both personnel and starships, the Misa stealth generator uses brute force signal jamming and a contingent of drones to conceal the ship's location. Imagine the effect that active camouflage has on a human's motion sensor, on a starship's scale. Now, personal opinions aside on the functionality of literally turning invisible in space, the Misa stealth generator does forego that privilege. Many modern Sangheili find serving on these ships uncomfortable, as they aren't accustomed to the scented air and ever-present hymnals projected throughout the vessel's speaker system. While the ancient hyperscanner panels of the Blockade runner are far superior to most human sensor technology, they wouldn't have much luck detecting any modern Covenant ship that didn't allow it, or any human prowler for that matter. Overlooked by the Covenant as antiquated and obsolete, these corvettes, alongside other vestige ships, returned to active duty following the Great Schism, and began to serve as the backbone of the Sangheili-led Covenant remnant factions, as well as the Swords of Sanghelios. The Jakarta and its related vestige ships were the foundation of the Covenant's typical design philosophy, with a twinge of the elite's aquatic culture. Ornately crafted, smooth, appearing more like a massive mobile work of art than a vessel of war. Its hull is constructed of nano-laminate plating, and it measures in at a massive 2,020 meters, more than twice as long as the Suitor pattern heavy corvette, almost 6 times longer than the largest UNSC corvette, and weighing in at a whopping 80 million tons. I want to emphasize just how big this ship is. So for comparison, here's a Paris-class heavy frigate, a Halcyon-class light cruiser, and a Marathon-class heavy cruiser next to the Sangheili Blockade runner. The ship's size can be attributed to its large crew and complement, needed to manage its bulky archaic systems. The Jakarta's crew consisted of 5 superiors, who likely enacted the functions of a typical bridge crew, and 220 menials that would perform maintenance or operate weapons and internal systems like life support, fire control, and engines. With the engineering prowess of the Hyrogax, later Covenant ships would require far fewer hands to operate, and to greater efficacy. This can be seen most evidently in the ship's externally mounted repulsor drives, which require constant monitoring and adjustments to operate at full power. This is in stark contrast with modern Covenant drives, which are remarkably fine-tuned, and can operate for years between maintenance refreshes. A full combat complement would include 15 obedientaries, or senior personnel like elite majors and higher, 100 warriors including elite miners, and 500 thralls, which would likely include enslaved Ungoi, Yanmei, or other species less powerful than the Sangheili, although this is an exception in the Swords of Sanghelios, where species other than Sangheili are present by choice. The hangars of the Covenant ships were found fully stocked with ancient patterns of Banshee and other strike craft, which were far too archaic to be used in the modern era. Still, it shows the Jakarta can carry strike craft in some capacity. The armament of the Jakarta includes 1 Ferex pattern excavation beam, 3 Corvin pattern plasma beams, 24 Gafnaron pattern plasma cannons, 16 Latrex pattern plasma torpedo silos, and 10 Airyu pattern pulse lasers. Often supported by Acton pattern escorts or ADP class to the UNSC, this corvette can pack a punch that will stagger even the most powerful Covenant and UNSC warships. The weapon systems of the Jakarta pattern blockade runner may be antiquated, but certainly are not ineffective. Modern Covenant ships employ a ceiling on power output for weapon systems, whereas older models of energy projector have no such limitation. These older projectors lack range, but make up for it in sheer power. The plasma cannons can also be overcharged, much like a plasma pistol on a much grander scale. While this can give commanders an edge in combat when used sparingly and with tact, an inexperienced or overeager crew can overload systems and wind up crippling their ship in the midst of battle. These crude weapons offended the Sangheili, but are nonetheless effective at penetrating hulls and decimating shielding. An interesting note, the plasma torpedoes equipped on board the blockade runner fire backwards. Somebody tell Space Doc. This is especially effective when used in line-breaking maneuvers, as the ship has no need to immediately pivot once the majority of the enemy ships are behind it. It also makes tailing the ship too closely inadvisable, both for larger ships that lack the evasive capacity of a destroyer or frigate, as well as smaller ships that lack the armor of a cruiser. The only named ship of this class is Jory's Light, a ship active during the final years of the War of Beginnings. Its exact escapades are unknown, but when the Writ of Union was signed, Jory's Light was one of the many ships to vanish into the uncharted sectors of the Milky Way. To this day, Sangheili trade war stories of the legendary vessel. Dozens of these ships were present for the Battle of Sunayan, where the Arbiter cleared out the remaining Storm Covenant and claimed Sanghelios for the swords. The only other appearances of this ship were mistakes on the part of the UNSC. During the Spartan wargame simulation, the UNSC misrepresented purity of spirit and undiminished entelechy, both Ket pattern cruisers, as Jakarta pattern blockade runners. Following the Great Schism, the Arbiter and Julam Dama retrieved several of these ships from hidden stocks within the Jory system. Much to Oni's chagrin, they effectively bolstered their fleets with them, as well as Ursa Kosh pattern man-o-wars, Lursu pattern brigantine heavy carriers, Rawaru pattern Karak cruisers, and Useumru pattern void piercers, as well as, I assume, the blueprints for Twitch pattern Saker automated artillery emplacements. So this little ship is an interesting one. It's absolutely huge. I mean, 2,020 meters, that's 6.6 thousand feet. And it's a Corvette. I get Halo has bigger ships, but this one is even bigger because I assume it has a lot of archaic and bulky tech, but that is ludicrous. I'd venture to say it's probably misclassified, if anything. This is more of a destroyer or light cruiser in my opinion, but that said, it's pretty cool. The backwards guns are a very nice touch, especially when you consider its primary function as breaking through enemy lines, an action that typically puts enemies behind you. It's very obviously Covenant, but something about it screams less Sangheili. It still looks, like I mentioned before, like a piece of abstract art, but something about it seems less sacred, despite the fact that it's literally blasting hymnals out of the speaker system, which is also funny. Now that could be because the elites built this without any Forerunner technology, which, by the way, what? Or it could be because ancient elites weren't ones to stand on ceremony, much in contrast with the prelatic prophets that oversaw the production of the newer Covenant ships. I can also appreciate that the ship has shortcomings. While not a huge one, the fact that you can overload the weapon systems is differentiating enough to be tact-changing, kinda like a giant plasma pistol. Overall, a pretty cool and interesting ship. Let me know what you think of it in the comments, I'm interested to hear. But anyway, that's all. Part 2 of Frigates and another video will be out soon. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Peace. I always forget to mention this. Follow me on Twitch. It's in the description. Follow me on Twitch. Please, please follow me on Twitch. I stream once every fucking red moon.